I came to clean out my abandoned farm until a Karen family threatened to call the HOA. The first thing I heard on my own land in 15 years wasn't birds or the wind through the hayfield. It was a woman's voice barking, "Sir, you can't park that here. I'm going to have to call the HOA." I was standing on the gravel drive my father laid by hand, tailgate down, throwing rotten fence posts into a trailer. My boots were in the same Tennessee dirt I'd baled hay on as a kid. And this stranger in white puffer jacket and spotless sneakers was aiming her phone camera at my face like it was a weapon. Behind her, a big guy in a brand new truck crossed his arms, like backup muscle from the suburbs. A couple of kids peered over the rail, watching the show. I wiped sweat from my neck, straightened up, and just looked at her. 62 years old, 30 of them in uniform, and somehow this lady had decided I was trespassing. "Ma'am," I said, calm as a range day, "there's no HOA out here." She laughed, sharp and fake. "Oh, you're one of those. This is a community. We have standards. You either comply, or we make a call. And trust me, you don't want that kind of trouble when you're trying to sell, if you even own this place." Thing is, while she performed for her camera, she didn't notice I'd already started recording too, or that I'd parked my truck with the license plate and the old family mailbox in the same frame. If she wanted to play authority, fine. She'd just picked the wrong old man to bluff. And the HOA she kept threatening to call? By the time this was over, that little lie was going to cost her more than she could imagine. If you've ever had someone try to bully you with fake rules, hit subscribe and stay with me, because this HOA was about to meet real procedure. By the time Melissa said the word sell, I was already back 15 years in my head. Last time I'd driven that road outside Knoxville, my father was still alive. The old mailbox with Granger hand paint on the side leaned a little even then, but you could still see it from a mile off. 200 acres of pasture, a red barn my grandfather built, and a farmhouse that never locked its doors. I left the Army at 18 and spent 30 years in the Corps of Engineers, building things in places most folks only see on the news. When I finally rotated home for good, my parents were older. Mom went first, quiet and sudden. Dad hung on a little longer, long enough to tell me, in that hospital room that smelled like bleach and regret, "Don't let him push you off this land, Tommy. Papers in the safe. You keep it straight." Then he was gone too, and life turned into deployments, contracts, inspections. The property taxes auto-drafted every year. I told myself I'd get around to it next spring. 10 springs went by. The farm sat there, empty but paid for, while Knoxville crept closer with its subdivisions and vinyl fences. When my knees finally convinced me I was done climbing in and out of ditches for a living, I knew it was time. Clean up the place. Either sell to someone who'd respect it or fix up the farmhouse and lease out the pasture. Close a chapter like an adult instead of a runaway kid. So I dug out the old metal deed box from my garage, brushed off the dust, and spread everything on my kitchen table. Survey maps with my grandfather's notes in pencil. Tax receipts going back to the 70s. A yellowed letter from the county about a right-of-way on the front ditch. I read every line. Old habits. In my world, paperwork is how people win or lose quietly. Pulling down that gravel driveway again, seeing the gate half fallen, weeds poking to the rock, it hit me harder than I planned. The barn roof sagged on one side. The farmhouse porch had a lean, but it was still ours. Mine now. I parked by the barn, stepped out of my jeans and work boots, and just listened. No highway noise, just wind, crows, and the creak of an old weather vane. For a moment, it felt like maybe I'd waited too long, that the land was giving me the silent treatment. Then the practical part of my brain kicked in. I walked the fence line, checked the corner posts, found the old rebar stakes exactly where the survey said they'd be. Muscle memory. I noted the trees that needed to come down, the junk pile Dad had always said he'd haul off himself. It was work, sure, but it was my kind of work. Me, the land, a trailer, and a plan. No drama, no committees, no neighbors with opinions. And for a couple of hours, that's exactly how it went. I'd forgotten how good it felt to sweat for something that belonged to me. I remember thinking, as I shoved a rotted fence post into the trailer, that maybe I didn't have a cell yet. Maybe I could fix the barn roof, patch the porch, sit on it a while. For a little while, it really did feel like we'd found peace again, me and that farm. Right up until a brand new truck rolled slow past the gate, backed up like it owned the road, and the first neighborly kindness stepped out in a white puffer jacket and turned into a threat. She marched right up my driveway like she'd been rehearsing it in the mirror. White puffer jacket, big sunglasses, phone already recording, her truck idled by the road, chrome spotless. The man in the driver's seat, later I'd learn his name was Brian, folded his arms over a polo that had never seen sweat. The kids in the back craned to see the show. "Excuse me," she said, like I'd personally offended her by existing. "You can't park that rusty thing here. This is not acceptable for the neighborhood." I set another rotten fence post on the trailer, slow, like I had all the time in the world. "Afternoon," I said. "Can I help you with something?" She tilted her phone to frame my truck, the trailer, the sagging barn. "You're already in violation of several HOA guidelines. Visible debris, non-compliant fencing, commercial equipment." She actually pointed at my old diesel like it was radioactive. "We have standards." I let my eyes do a slow sweep. No gate across the county road. No subdivision entrance sign. Just my leaning "no trespassing" sign on the fence and the same old ditch my granddad hand dug. "Ma'am," I said, "there's no HOA out here." She gave a little laugh. "Too sharp and too loud. You must be new. This is a community now. We have an association. We're in the process of formalizing, but the rules are already being followed. People are worried about property values." She flicked a glance at my boots, my trailer. "You can't just dump junk and park. Farm stuff." "I'm not new," I said. "This is my family's place." Behind her, Brian leaned out his window. "Buddy, she's just trying to help you out. You're going to have problems selling if you don't clean this up the right way. Buyers don't like eyesores." I studied him for half a beat. Soft hands, clean shoes, a truck bed that had never hauled anything rougher than a cooler. "I am cleaning it up," I said. "That's what today is." Melissa stepped closer, camera up, performing to whatever imaginary audience she pictured. "Not with that trailer there, you're not. It cannot stay parked in view of the road. Our guidelines clearly state no non-residential equipment can be visible from the frontage. You need to move it. Now." I didn't raise my voice. 30 years of dealing with hot-headed lieutenants had burned that habit out of me. "And where exactly did you get these guidelines?" She lifted her chin, phone steady. "We have a homeowners association forming. I'm on the committee. If you bother to show up to the meetings at the Hartwell residence, you'd know. This whole stretch is going to be protected. No junkyards. No whatever this is." I let her words hang there, looking right into her sunglasses. Her hand had a little tremor she probably didn't know she had. Nerves, adrenaline, maybe guilt if she owned any. "You live up the road?" I asked. She nodded like I'd finally asked an intelligent question. Gray brick, white shutters, third driveway past a bend. We moved here to get away from city chaos and bring some order and pride to the area. People like you. She made a small circle with her phone, catching my bar, my trailer, my truck. "Make that harder." "People like me," I repeated. I kept my tone flat. I wanted her to keep talking. "So here's what's going to happen," she said. "You're going to move that trailer so it's not visible from the road. You're going to cover that pile with a tarp so it's not an eyesore. And you're going to attend the next community meeting so we can go over acceptable use. If you don't, I will have to call the HOA. And trust me, you do not want that kind of trouble when you're trying to sell. If you even own this place." There it was, the assumption, the little twist of her mouth on own. I felt something old and cold settle in me. Same feeling I get when a contractor tried to pull a fast one on a safety inspection. Same feeling I'd had when some major thought yelling could substitute for reading the manual. "Ma'am," I said, "go ahead and make whatever calls you feel you need to make." She blinked behind the lenses. Not the response she expected. "I'm telling you," she insisted, voice rising, "you are not allowed to just show up and start changing things. Until we determine who actually has rights here, you need to stop work. If you keep this up, we will make sure no one touches this property. We will freeze your sale. We will report every violation." I watched Brian's eyes when she said, "we." He shifted, uncomfortable. That told me plenty. "You're recording, right?" I asked her lightly. "Of course," she said, "for documentation. For the board." "Perfect," I said. "So am I." For the first time, her confidence cracked. "Why?" "Because I like to keep my own records," I said. "Keeps things straight when people start throwing around words like violation and rights." She squared her shoulders. "Last warning. Move the trailer. Cover the junk. Or I call the HOA and county code enforcement, and we make this official." I glanced at the old mailbox with Granger fading on the side, then back at her. "I'll be here," I said. "You do what you think is right." She huffed, turned on her heel, and stomped back to the truck, still filming. As they rolled away, I watched the new vinyl-sided house appear over the rise, all sharp lines and perfect mulch. Like a piece of suburbia had landed where pasture used to be. That day, I figured she was just a pushy neighbor who didn't understand land that wasn't carved into lots by some developer. I didn't know yet that this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a test. And Melissa Hartwell? She was just getting started. If you've ever had a neighbor try to boss you around on your own property, hit the like button so this story gets in front of more folks who've dealt with fake authority. Because this first showdown was nothing compared to what came next. For a couple days after that first run-in, it was quiet. I did what I came to do. Hauled out twisted barbed wire, stacked scrap lumber, dragged a rusted hay rake out of the weeds. Every once in a while I'd see that gray brick house up the road through the trees. Fresh sod, perfect shrubs. Little solar lights marching along the walk like soldiers that had never seen mud. Didn't matter. I kept my head down. Camera clipped to my shirt. Phone in my pocket set to auto backup. Old habit from inspections. If it's not written down or recorded, it didn't happen. The first shot across the bow came 3 mornings later. I pulled up to the gate and found a bright neon flyer zip-tied right to my leaning fence post, covering most of my faded "No Trespassing" sign. "Welcome to Hartwell Meadows Community." It said in big, cheerful letters. Underneath, smaller print. "Neighborhood Association, Guidelines for Property Appearance and Safety." They'd even use a stock photo of some cul-de-sac that sure as hell wasn't our road. Bullet points marched down the page. No visible debris or equipment from roadway. No commercial or agricultural vehicles parked outside of enclosed structures. All fencing must be uniform in style and color. All tree removal must be approved by the Neighborhood Association Committee. At the bottom, in bold, "Non-compliance may affect your ability to sell or transfer property." Beneath that, contact Melissa H., interim president, with an email address that had HOA in it just for flavor. I stood there in the gravel, reading, listening to the birds and the distant hum of the highway, and I actually laughed. Out loud. They'd gone from reforming an association to printing up rules and stapling them on someone else's fence. No signatures. No letterhead. No county seal. Just pure, concentrated suburban cosplay. I took a picture of the flyer where it sat, cover my sign, making sure to get the fence line and road in frame. Then I slid my knife out, snipped a zip tie, and put the paper gently in the passenger seat of my truck. Evidence, not trash. By that afternoon, the social part of the campaign started. I was tossing old feed sacks into the trailer when an older guy in a ball cap rolled by slow in a beat-up Ford. He gave me a half wave, then pulled over. "You the Granger boy," he called. "Used to be," I said. "Tom." He nodded. "Name's Earl. I'm down past the creek bend. Been here since before that subdivision sprouted up." He jerked his chin toward the Hartwell's place. "Heard you were back. Good to see somebody working this land again." There was a tightness around his eyes, though, like he was testing the waters. "Word travels fast." I said. "Sure it does," he answered. "Melissa been by?" I raised an eyebrow. "You know her?" He huffed. "Everybody knows her. She's been knocking on doors, talking about a neighborhood association." Says you're bringing in heavy equipment. Gonna turn this into a junkyard. Says if we don't get ahead of it, property values will tank. I let that sink in. So it wasn't just about fussing at me. She was building a little coalition. What did you tell her? I asked. Told her this ain't a subdivision, and you boys own this land for any of us. Told her county don't recognize no HOA out here. He spat into the dust. Didn't stop her. Tried to hand me some guideline sheet. Said she was president now. President of what? I said. He cracked a grin. That's what I asked. The smile faded. Just so you know, she's saying you don't really own this place. Something about lapsed or abandoned. Folks that don't know better are listening. There it was, the reputation game. Plant doubt. Repeat it often enough. Hope nobody checks the paperwork. Appreciate the heads up, I said. You got any of those guidelines lying around? Trash can, he said, where it belongs. He studied me a second. You got your papers straight? Yes, sir, I said. Every line. He seemed to relax. Figured. Your daddy wasn't the type to leave things messy. Just watch your back. She likes to film people. Twisted online. Said something about documenting nuisances. I'd seen that type overseas. Different accent. Same tactic. The next couple days, the air on the road changed. A minivan slowed way down as it passed, the driver craning her neck to stare at my trailer, like it was a crime scene. A jogger in expensive shoes ran by twice, both times angling his phone toward the barn. One afternoon, I caught a glimpse of a stroller and a woman I didn't know at the Hartwell's mailbox, Melissa talking animatedly, gesturing toward my place. I could have walked up, started an argument, tried to win hearts and minds on the gravel shoulder. But every sideways look, every whisper, every flyer and phone camera, they all went into the same folder in my head. The HOA still hadn't realized that every little note they were passing around was just more ammo with their fingerprints all over it. The warning shot turned into live fire the next week. I'd spent a couple more days clearing out the back pasture. When I came back toward the road with a load of scrap strapped down, my stomach did that slow, disappointed roll you get when you already know what you're looking at. Right there at the mouth of my gravel drive, sunk into the ditch like it had grown there overnight, was a brand new metal sign. White background, green border, very official-looking font. Hartwell Meadows Community Rules. No heavy equipment or commercial vehicles beyond this point. Trespassers will be reported to HOA and county. Underneath, in smaller print, by order of the Neighborhood Association Committee. They'd even bolted it to a steel post hammered right into the county right-of-way, just far enough over the line that it looked like it was theirs to control who turned in. My no trespassing Granger sign was half covered behind it, like they were trying to overwrite my name. I sat there in my truck a minute, engine idling, letting my pulse come back down. I'd seen warlords in desert villages pull this exact move, just with more sand and fewer yoga pants. I put the truck in park, set my dash cam to manual save, and stepped out, boots on gravel. I walked slow around the sign, taking it in from every angle like it was an IED. Read the wording. Notice the cheap online order look. The bolt head's fresh and shiny. Then I heard tires on asphalt. Melissa's gray brick palace up the road had spat out her SUV. She rolled up fast, braked so the nose of her car blocked half my driveway, and popped out with a clipboard under one arm and her phone. Already up? Sir, she called, voice bright and brittle. You are currently in violation of posted community rules. I looked from the sign to her. Afternoon, I said. You put this here? She smiled like a realtor about to close. The committee did. We had an emergency meeting after several neighbors expressed concern. Heavy equipment, commercial dumping, unauthorized land alteration. None of that is acceptable here. I told you that. Brian's truck pulled in behind her, boxing my trailer in. He got out slower, arms crossed over that polo, doing his best impression of enforcement. You can't block my access to my own drive, I said calm. Brian puffed up. We're not blocking access. We're enforcing community standards. There's a difference. I let my eyes flick to his pristine tires, still sitting on the county road. You sure about that? Melissa stepped closer, clipboard lifted. The pages were full of bullet points and bold text. Looked like she spent a whole evening playing HOA on her laptop. As interim president, she said, I have the authority to restrict use until compliance is verified. Continuing to bring heavy equipment onto this lot without approval is a violation. You need to stop. I nodded once, slowly. Did authority come with a judge's signature? County seal? Anything besides your printer ink? Her jaw tightened. We've filed our intent with the county. It's a formality. What matters is that this neighborhood has agreed on standards. Several of us feel unsafe with strange trucks going in and out. She glanced at my license plate like it might be fake. Until we know you actually own this, you do not have the right to disturb the peace or affect our property values. There was again that deliberate doubt, like saying enough times would make my deed disappear. I took a tiny step closer, so my voice wouldn't have to rise. Ma'am, this driveway, that barn, those pastures, they're on parcel 14B, recorded to Thomas Granger in 1989, reaffirmed in 2010, taxes current, easement for the ditch right of way only. You are now standing on my access, telling me I can't use it. She blinked, the confidence wobbling for half a second before she clamped it back on. You can rattle off whatever you want, until we see paperwork. As far as the association is concerned, this is an abandoned lot under community protection. You can't just roll in like some contractor. If you keep this up, we will make sure no one will touch this place. We will report every violation. Real estate agents talk, you know. Brian chimed in, parroting. We'll make it so you can't sell. Nobody around here wants a problem property. I felt that old chill run down my spine. Not fear, just that click when someone goes from annoying to dangerous. You're telling me, I said, letting each word settle, that you intend to interfere with my legal right to sell based on rules you printed yourself, on land you don't own. Melissa lifted her phone higher, angling it so she was framed just right. I'm telling you that if you continue to ignore posted rules, this community will treat you as a nuisance property. We will document everything. We will call the HOA. We will call code enforcement. We will call whoever we have to until this stops. That a threat? I asked. It's a promise, she shot back. I held her gaze a beat, then glanced pointedly at her phone. You getting all this? Absolutely, she said. For our records. Good, I said. So am I? I walked back to my truck, nice and slow, every movement deliberate. Reached in, tapped my phone screen to confirm the audio was rolling. Then I turned, framed the sign, the blocked driveway, Melissa's proud face, Brian's crossed arms. Memorized the angle of the sun, the sound of their engines, the wording on that metal plate. They thought they were tightening the noose. All they were really doing was tying their own rope in high definition. When Melissa finally stepped back enough for me to ease the truck through, she called after me, loud so the camera would catch it. This is your final warning. Next time, the HOA and the county will be here. You are not above the rules. As I rolled up the drive, gravel crunching under my tires, I knew one thing for certain. They weren't going to stop on their own. And if I didn't do something smarter than just argue in the road, they weren't just going to make my life hell. They were going to try this on the next poor soul who didn't know better. Drop a comment if you've ever had someone flat out threaten your livelihood with fake rules like that. Because right there, I realized this wasn't about a sign anymore. It was about shutting down a bully with their own procedures. Driving back to the motel that night, I didn't turn on the radio. I just replayed Melissa's words in my head. We'll make sure you can't sell this place. I've heard threats dressed up as policy my whole adult life. Overseas, it was warlords waving fake permits. Back here, it was contractors fudging inspection reports. Different scenery, same smell. By the time I hit the city limits, the anger had cooled into something more useful. Procedure. I laid everything out on the motel desk like it was an ops brief. Old deed box, survey maps, tax receipts, my phone, a yellow legal pad. I wrote 2 headings. 1, what's mine? 2, what they did. Under, What's mine? I listed parcel number, acreage, recorded dates, tax years. I pulled up the county GIS website on my laptop, keyed in my parcel. There was parcel 14B, owner, Thomas Granger. No HOA overlay, no subdivision plat, just plain rural land. I screenshotted every page, printed what I could in the motel lobby, slid them into a cheap plastic folder. Not pretty, but organized. Under what they did, I wrote, threatened to interfere with sale, posted fake community rules, sign in county right-of-way, blocked driveway access, claimed non-existent HOA authority. I transferred every video and photo from my phone and dash cam onto a thumb drive, then to my laptop, then to cloud storage, labeled each file. Day 1 _ Melissa _ threat _ HOA. Day 3 _ flyer _ fence. Day 5 _ sign _ blocking _ drive. Time, date, GPS when I had it. I'd taught junior inspectors to do this for years. Now I was my own trainee. Next step was simple. Verify. Never walk into a fight assuming you're right. Get it in writing. Next morning, I drove to the county building instead of the farm. The code enforcement office smelled like old coffee and copy paper. A tired guy behind glass slid me a form. Complaint? He asked. Maybe, I said. First, I've got a question. Out on County Road 17, rural parcels. There an HOA recorded for Hartwell Meadows? Anything that touches parcel 14B? He clicked around on his computer, frowning. Hartwell Meadows subdivision. Phase 1 and 2. Yeah, but that's a platted subdivision up the hill. Your parcel's separate AG land. No HOA jurisdiction on you. Road right-of-way's ours. Why? I slid one of my printed screenshots under the glass, just making sure before I start moving someone sign off my access. He squinted. They put this where? Right in front of my drive, in your ditch. I said, blocking trucks from turning in, claiming trespassers will be reported to HOA and county. He snorted. Yeah, no, they don't get to post rules on our right-of-way. You got pictures? I handed him a sheet with 3 color prints stapled together. Signed driveway, my old no trespassing sign half buried behind it. He whistled low. That's bold. He scribbled a name and number on a card. Talked to Deputy Mays, too. She handles rural nuisance calls. She's not going to love this. I thanked him, pocketed the card, and drove straight to the sheriff's substation. Deputy Clara Mays was maybe late 30s. Hair pulled back, eyes that said she'd seen enough nonsense for one lifetime. I laid my folder on her desk, not dramatic, just neat. Ma'am, I said, name's Thomas Granger. I'm not here to stir anything up. I just want to document a situation before it gets worse. She raised an eyebrow. All right, talk me through it. I did, step by step, no embellishments. I showed her the parcel printout with my name on it, the flyer they'd wrapped around my no trespassing sign, still shots from Melissa's video where she blocked my access, a transcript I'd typed up of her saying, we'll make sure you can't sell this place. And until we determine who actually has rights here, you need to stop work. When I finished, she tapped the folder. You were an engineer, weren't you? Corps of Engineers. I said. Then inspections. Old habits. She nodded slowly. Well, Mr. Granger, what they're doing. Threatening to interfere with your sale, posting fake authority on county right-of-way that can wander real close to harassment and civil interference. At minimum, they have zero right to block your access. You done right documenting this. Last thing I want is a screaming match on the road, I said. If I move that sign myself, I don't want someone claiming I ripped up their property. I'll log a call, she said. If they dial and bout you, it'll flag this report. And if you want, next time they decide to film you on your land, you call us. I'll come explain how jurisdiction actually works. That was all I needed to hear. Walking back out into the Tennessee sun, folder under my arm, I felt that subtle shift I'd always watched on job sites overseas. The moment you stop reacting and start running the op. They thought I was just some old man with a trailer. From that moment on, I wasn't their target. I was the one quietly building the case. And Melissa? She had no idea that every threat she made on camera was about to become Exhibit A in her own downfall. Back at the motel, with Deputy May's card in my wallet and that folder in my bag, I stopped thinking like a guy cleaning up his dad's place and started thinking like I was building an inspection file on a crooked contractor. Next morning, I showed up at the farm in work mode. Again, jeans, boots, camera clipped to my shirt. First thing I did was a slow walk of the front boundary. I measured from the center line of the asphalt to the first fence post, just like I'd done for 1,000 right-of-ways. The ditch, the shoulder, where the county's land ended and mine began, it all matched the survey. I took photos every 10 feet. Closed UPS of the Hartwell Community Rules sign planted right in the county strip. My old Granger no trespassing sign half hidden behind it. Every picture I narrated quietly. Date, time, location. Hartwell sign in county right-of-way, partially blocking access to parcel 14B. Old habit. Never assume you'll remember later. Then I walk my own fence line. Each corner stake I photographed twice, once wide, showing the tree line, once close with a tape measure stretched to the old survey numbers. Rusted barbed wire, leaning posts, even the busted gate hinge. To most folks, it was just junk. To me, it was a dotted line proving what was mine long before Melissa learned what HOA stood for. When a UPS truck rumbled by, slow and like everyone seemed to these days, I gave the driver a nod and kept my focus on the job. Let him look. Every week rumor Melissa spread was just going to make the eventual truth hit harder. By midday, I had a full visual of the property as is. Barn sagging but solid. Farmhouse porch listing, piles of scraps sorted and strapped. For each load I hauled toward the gate, I paused at the sign, got a shot of how it pinched my turn radius, and logged the time. If they wanted to argue I was a nuisance, the footage would show I was the only one actually improving anything. On my lunch break, I sat on the tailgate with my folder open. I slid each printed photo into cheap plastic sleeves, labeled them with sticky notes. Frontage, pre-existing access, county ditch, unauthorized HOA sign, parcel markers, original fence line. Then I opened a fresh page on my legal pad and started a timeline. Day 1, initial contact. Melissa claims HOA, questions ownership, threatens to call board. Day 3, flyer posted over my no trespassing sign, claims neighborhood association guidelines. Day 5, metal sign installed in county right-of-way, driveway partially blocked. Melissa and Brian threatened to freeze sale, report violations, question ownership again. For each line, I jotted which video file matched it, which stills, which witnesses. Earl's warning about her door-to-door campaign earned its own bullet. That evening, back at the motel, I backed everything up again, thumb drive, laptop, cloud. Then, I did one more thing I knew would matter later. I transcribed the key parts of our conversations word for word. You're not allowed to just show up and start changing things. Until we determine who actually has rights here, you need to stop work. If you keep this up, we will make sure no one touches this property. We will freeze your sale. Reading it in black and white, without the performance, it sounded even uglier. Not neighborly concern. Control. I made a clean copy of the parcel info from the county GIS, highlighted the line that showed there was no HOA overlay, printed the email from code enforcement confirming Hartwell Meadows HOA had no authority over my parcel or the road ditch, clipped Deputy May's card to front. By the time I was done, my what they did section looked less like a gripe and more like a case file. Dates, threats, physical evidence, jurisdiction confirmed. All that was missing now was one last piece. I needed them to double down on camera in a way that would look real bad in front of an actual badge. So the next morning, I did something very simple that made my intent crystal clear without saying a word. I took a brand new sign out of my truck, a plain metal one I'd picked up in town. Black letters on white. Private property. No trespassing. Access by owner only. I set my camera rolling, stepped into gravel, and bolted it to my own fence post, just inside my boundary, right where Melissa had zip-tied her flyer days before. Then I walked back to the ditch, looked straight into my lens, and said, "Owner posting is access. Any interference from here on out is intentional. All the pieces were in place. Documents, maps, timestamps, jurisdiction. A deputy who already knew my side of the story. Now I just needed Melissa to do what people like her always do when they feel their fake authority slipping. Push harder, louder, and dumber than before. Only one step remained before I sprung the trap. I had to give her the perfect excuse to call on her imaginary HOA and let the real authorities pick up a line instead. If you've ever had to quietly prepare for a bully to overplay their hand, hit subscribe and stick around, because the way I baited this HOA president into her own worst day was straight out of veteran playbook. The bait itself was simple. The art was in how loud it would look to Melissa and how quiet it would look on paper. Next morning, I didn't pull in with my beat-up work truck. I came in authority uniform. Clean boots, khaki pants, light blue button-down, my old canvas jacket brushed off, my deed folder under one arm, a rolled-up survey map under the other, and a bright orange survey tripod in the bed of rental pickup. To anyone who understood land, it was just a guy verifying his corners. To someone like Melissa, it screamed, something official is happening and you're not in charge. I parked halfway down my gravel drive, just far enough from the road that she'd have to step onto my property to snoop. Then I set the tripod right by the frontage, extended the legs deliberately, and clipped a little optical level on top. The thing didn't even have batteries in it. It just looked impressive. Camera on my chest, phone rolling. I unrolled my survey and pinned it to a plywood board I'd set on 2 sawhorses. Big, old-school parcel map, Granger in black ink across parcel 14B. I weighted the corners with rocks so it wouldn't blow. Then I did what always makes control freaks itch. I ignored the audience I knew was there. I could feel her eyes on me before I heard the tires. The Hartwell's SUV crept past once, slowed, then disappeared around the bend. 5 minutes later it came back, faster this time, and stopped at that ridiculous community rules sign. Door slam. Heavier footsteps, Brian, then the sharper click of Jim's shoes on gravel. What do you think you're doing? Melissa's voice carried down the drive, already half-shaped for her camera. I didn't look up right away. I sighted along the level, made a note on my pad, then finally turned like I just now noticed her. She stood just past the ditch, one toe over my property line. Phone up, sunglasses on, ponytail perfect. Brian hovered by the fake sign, like it was a badge. Morning, I said, marking my corners. Verifying access. You can't just put equipment out here, she snapped. We told you, no commercial activity. You were warned. This is now an HOA matter. There it was, the line I'd been waiting for. HOA matter. I repeated mildly. Is that so? Yes, she said, stepping closer. Her phone swept over the tripod, the map, my folder. You were told to cease work until the association could determine ownership and acceptable use. Instead, you show up with surveying gear, pretending to be whatever this is. That's a violation. We will be issuing fines. Behind her, Brian puffed up on cue. We're not going to let you run roughshod over this neighborhood. Man, we've already got photos of all your junk. We've talked to people. Nobody wants some operation going on here. I let my gaze rest on the Hartwell Meadows Community Rules sign, then back on them. You two are really proud of that sign, huh? It's staying right there, Melissa said quickly. And if you touch it, that's vandalism of community property. I will call the HOA board in the county. Please do, I said. She blinked. What? Call them. I repeated calm. Call the HOA. Call the county. Call whoever you think you need to. I'd like everyone on the same page. She hesitated, just a hitch, then lifted her chin. Fine. You brought this on yourself. She jabbed at her screen, turned half away so the camera framed my tripod and map like they were contraband. While she dialed, I walked slowly to my truck, making sure my chest camera had her, Brian, and the sign in frame. I unlocked the door, happened to angle my phone so the call screen was visible, and scrolled to the number Deputy Mays had written on her card. I hit dial, speaker on low. Sheriff's office, this is Mays. Deputy, it's Granger, I said, voice even. I'm at the parcel we talked about. The neighbors just informed me this is an HOA matter, and that they're issuing fines and blocking my access. Thought you might want to hear this firsthand. Melissa's head snapped around. For a second, the mask cracked, and I saw exactly what I'd suspected since day one. She hadn't expected anyone to actually put a real badge in the conversation. Are you calling the police on us? Brian sputtered. No, I said. I called yesterday. This is just a follow-up. On the other end, I heard a chair scrape. I'm 10 minutes out. Mays said, y'all stay civil. Keep that camera rolling, Mr. Granger. Oh, it's rolling, I said. Melissa recovered fast, flipping her phone to selfie mode. Good, she said loudly, because when the officer gets here, they'll see you've been escalating, bringing in survey equipment, trying to change boundaries, harassing us with calls. This is exactly why we needed an HOA. People like you don't respect community standards unless there are consequences. I went back to my map, pencil in hand, like we were just killing time. Everything I needed was in motion now. An invented board, a fake sign in the county ditch, explicit threats about blocking my sale, and an actual deputy on the way to hear her double down on camera in my driveway. When her SUV and Brian's truck stayed parked there at the mouth of my land, instead of slinking away, I knew I'd judged her right. They weren't going to back off. They were going to walk straight onto the stage I'd built for them. And when that county cruiser rolled up to Melissa's pretend kingdom, this little HOA matter was about to become very, very real. Deputy May's cruiser eased around the bend like this was just another call. To me, it looked like the curtain finally going up. She parked clear of the drive. Funny how the only person who knew not to block access was the one with an actual badge. Melissa and Brian snapped to attention. Melissa angled her phone so she and the deputy were in the same frame, already narrating. Officer, thank you for coming, she gushed. We've got a man here refusing to comply with HOA rules, bringing in heavy equipment, harassing the community. This is an HOA matter. May shut her door, thumb resting casual on her belt. Ma'am, I'll talk to everybody, one at a time. Her eyes slid to me. Mr. Granger. Deputy, I said, appreciate you coming out. Melissa blinked. You two know each other? Mays didn't answer her. She looked at my tripod, the map, the fake Hartwell Meadows Community Rules sign, jutting out of the county ditch. Why don't you start from the top, she said, asterisk to me star. I kept it short, the way she'd like. Owner of Parcel 14B. I said, handing over my folder. 30-plus years. Taxes current. Cleaning up the place. These folks are posted a sign in the county right away claiming HOA and county authority blocked my driveway and told me they'll freeze my sale and make sure nobody touches this land if I don't obey their rules. Mays flipped the folder open. Parcel printouts, tax receipts, the email from code enforcement with no HOA jurisdiction over Parcel 14B highlighted. She gave the map a glance, then the fence line, then the deed. You could see the picture forming behind her eyes. Is that accurate? She asked, turning to Melissa. Melissa's voice went up half an octave. No, he's leaving out that this is a Hartwell Meadows now. We have an association. We voted. We put rules in place. He's out here with equipment, making noise, scaring kids, lowering property values. We have every right to enforce standards. Look at his truck. Look at that junk. Mays pointed at the metal sign. You put that there? Yes, Melissa said. The board did, to protect the neighborhood. In the county ditch, Mays said, not a question. That's community frontage, Melissa insisted. We can regulate what comes in. It says trespassers will be reported to HOA and county. That's what we're doing. Mays took a slow breath. Ma'am, there is no HOA authority on this parcel. At all. It is separate AG land. The only people who get to post rules on that ditch are the county, and the owner whose driveway that is. And spoiler, that ain't you. Brian stepped in, blustering. Then he's trespassing on our community. He can't just roll in here. We told him to stop work until we determine who owns this. Mays held up a hand. I've already determined who owns it. It's written right here and on the county system. It says Granger. Not Hartwell. Not HOA. Granger. Melissa's smile cracked. But we have guidelines. We printed. Guidelines aren't law. Mays, cut in. You can't invent an HOA over somebody else's deed and start threatening to interfere with their right to sell. She turned to me. You said you had video of that? Yes, ma'am. I scrolled on my phone, hit play. Melissa's own voice floated out. Asterisk. If you keep this up, we will make sure no one touches this property. We will freeze your sale. We will report every violation. Asterisk. Mays watched, jaw tightening. You aware, she said slowly to Melissa, that threatening to mess with someone's lawful sale can fall under harassment and civil interference? Especially when you're posting fake authority signs in our right-of-way. That's taken out of context, Melissa blurted. He's been intimidating. He called you on us. I called yesterday. I said quietly, after you blocked my drive the first time. I told you on day one, ma'am. I added, meeting her sunglasses. There's no HOA out here. Brian tried one last swing. Look, officer, we just don't want this turning into some junkyard. We're protecting property values. That's not a crime. Wanting neat neighbors isn't crime. Mays agreed. Planting official-looking signs on land that's not yours, blocking access, and threatening a legal owner with made-up HOA fines is getting real close. She tapped the post with her knuckle. This comes out today, or the county does it and sends you the bill. Melissa sputtered. You can't. This is harassment. I have everything on video. So does he? Mays said, difference is his matches the records. She handed my folder back. Here's what's going to happen. Mr. Granger keeps using his driveway and working his land within code. You, she nodded at the Hartwells, remove that sign from the ditch and stop telling folks there's an HOA over property you don't own. Next time I get a call about you blocking him or threatening his sale, this stops being a friendly talk and starts being charges. Are we clear? Brian's shoulders sagged first. Yes, ma'am, he muttered. Melissa looked between her phone, the sign, and my map, realizing all at once that the performance had flipped on her. Slowly, she lowered the camera. Fine, she snapped. We'll reconsider the sign. But this isn't over. For your sake, Mays said evenly, it probably should be. Watching them wrestle that shiny community rules sign out of the ditch in front of a deputy in my rolling camera was satisfying in a way I can't dress up. Their kids stared from the SUV while Mom and Dad yanked and cursed at a post they'd rammed in themselves. But exposing them in public was only the beginning. What came afterward hit them where people like that feel it most. In their image, their money, and their precious illusion of control. If you've ever seen a fake HOA get smacked down by the real rules, drop a comment with your story. Because the fallout from this little driveway showdown was brutal, and it didn't end with just one sign coming out of the ground. Driving back to the motel after that showdown, I thought the whole thing might finally be done. But bullies don't just stop because they get told no once. They regroup. 2 days later, Earl's number popped up on my phone. You might want to come by the gas station bulletin board, he said. Melissa's at it again. I swung by on my way to the farm. Right there between church bake sales and lawnmower repair was a glossy flyer. Problem property. Hartwell Meadows. Abandoned lot, unsafe structures, heavy equipment activity. Potential buyers beware. Contact Neighborhood Association for details. No address printed, but the photo was my barn, my truck, my driveway. At the bottom, in small print, we are working to prevent sale to irresponsible buyers. That was the next phase of her war. If she couldn't block my driveway, she'd poison the well. I took photos front and back, then asked the clerk who'd posted it. Lady in a white jacket and a clipboard, he said. Said it was official HOA info. He let me take it down. Didn't know it was about you, Tom. Sorry. Not your fault, I said. But I'm going to need you to remember what she told you if someone asks. Back at the farm, I finished the cleanup like nothing was wrong. Hauled off the last of the scrap. Patched the worst holes in the barn roof. Mowed the front acreage so it looked like a place, not a rumor. Then I made 2 calls. My realtor and Deputy Mays. To the realtor, I laid out plainly. Before we list, You should know a neighbor's been trying to scare people off with fake HOA talk. I've got the deed, the county on record, and a deputy who's familiar with it. I don't hide problems from buyers. She was quiet a second, then said, honestly, having all that documented makes you easier to sell than half my clients. Send me the folder. To Mays, I emailed photos of the gas station flyer and typed out what the clerk had said word for word. She called me an hour later. Mr. Granger, that's not just petty, she said. That's targeted interference. You ready to formalize this? I am, I said. We met at the substation again. This time my folder had a new section, POSD warning actions. The fake buyers beware flyer. Timeline. HOA sign removed on X date. Smear posted on Y date. Melissa's own words, now backed by a pattern. Mays typed up a formal warning letter on county letterhead. 2 copies. One for the Hartwells, one for my file. It was simple, clean, and deadly. The county acknowledged my clear ownership. The Hartwells were instructed to cease posting false notices or claiming HOA authority over my parcel. Any further attempt to interfere with sale or access could result in civil and criminal consequences. Want a deputy present when we serve it? She asked. I'll be there, I said, but I'd appreciate you doing the talking. Next afternoon, we walked up the Hartwell's perfect concrete drive together. Mays in uniform, me in my protocol clothes, folder in hand. Curtains twitched on 3 houses. Word travels fast in the country. Melissa opened the door with her phone, already rolling. Can I help you? She said, all sugar and ice. Yes, ma'am. Mays said, we just need a quick minute of your time. She held out the letter. This is a formal notice from the county regarding Parcel 14B and your recent actions. Melissa skimmed the first line, color draining under makeup. This is ridiculous, she snapped. We were just informing buyers. We have a right to free speech. You know, you do. May said evenly, you don't have a right to present yourself as an authority you're not, or threaten someone's lawful sale with fabricated HOA rules. You were told there is no HOA jurisdiction there. You kept going anyway. She nodded at my folder, and he documented every step. Brian hovered behind her, reading over her shoulder. His face went from confused to furious to embarrassed. All this over some junky old farm, he muttered. I met his eyes. That junky old farm. Put your kid's school on the tax rolls long before your subdivision showed up. And it's not yours to manage. Melissa jabbed a finger at me. You're doing this just to make us look bad. You did that yourself, I said quietly. On video, at my driveway, at the gas station. I just put it in order. May stepped in. Here's how this works now. From this moment forward, you do not contact Mr. Granger about his use of his land. You do not post signs, flyers, or online statements claiming HOA authority over his parcel or threatening to block his sale. If a buyer has questions, they can talk to the county. You are officially out of this. And if we don't agree, Melissa shot back. Then we move from warnings to charges. May said, harassment, maybe more, depending what your little association has been telling folks. I'd advise you to take the out I'm handing you. There was a long moment where pride and self-preservation wrestled on Melissa's face. Pride lost. Fine, she said through her teeth. We'll comply. But don't blame me when this place lowers everyone's values. Funny thing about value, I said, some people see it in a deed and a clean title, not in a fake HOA sign. Over the next week, the change on the road was subtle but clear. The community rules sign never came back. The gas station flyer didn't reappear. Neighbors who watched from a distance started waving again. One guy in a work van pulled over and said, Heard you made the HOA lady eat her own rules. Good on you. My realtor listed the farm a full disclosure. Clear title, no HOA, verified by the county. First couple that came to walk the place weren't scared by the old barn or the rumor mill. They saw a pasture, a solid house frame, and a clean paper trail. Standing on that porch with them, watching their kids run the same yard I used to, I felt something in my chest unclench. I hadn't come back looking for a fight. I came to close a chapter. But when someone tried to write me out of my own story with made-up rules and a camera, I did what 30 years in uniform taught me to do: document, verify, and let the system chew on the bully for a while. From that day on, the Hartwells kept their HOA cosplay on their own side of the fence. And every time I drove past their perfect gray brick house on my way to the farm, their blinds would twitch, but nobody stepped into my ditch again. If stories like this one scratch that itch for real consequences, hit the like button so it finds the next person getting pushed around by pretend authority. Because out here, the rules still work if you know how to use them. The couple that ended up buying the farm were more boots and ball caps than puffer jackets. He was a lineman. She taught at the middle school. They pulled up in an older F-150 that had actually seen mud. No HOA brochures on the dashboard. No questions about community guidelines. Just how's the well, and is the soil still good for hay? I walked them through everything like I wish someone had done for my dad years before. Showed them the survey markers my grandfather had set. Pointed out the low spot that pooled after a hard rain. Opened the folder and slid over copies of the deed, the tax history, the email from the county that said, in plain English, there was no HOA jurisdiction, period. I didn't hide the drama, either. Neighbor up the road tried to invent an association and claim authority over this lot. I said, here's how that went. I kept it short, just enough so they'd understand why the county letter lived in the front sleeve. The linemen studied the pages, then the land, then me. So you're telling me we get a clean title, no HOA, and the county already smacked down anyone who says otherwise? That's about the size of it, I said. He looked at his wife. She grinned. I'm already seeing kids in that pasture and a garden out back, she said, and maybe a porch swing that doesn't lean. We closed a month later. The morning we signed, I drove out there one last time alone. Walked the fence line with my old tape measure hanging from my belt, more for comfort than for need. The barn still sagged, but less. The junk piles were gone. The ditch where Melissa's fake community rules sign had stood was just grass and gravel again. Up the road, the Hartwell house sat picture perfect, blind to half-mast. I could feel eyes on me, but no one came out. No phone held up like a weapon, no clipboard, no threats about calling the HOA. Just quiet. Funny thing, word had gotten around. Earl told me later that after that county letter, folks started giving the Hartwells a wide berth. A couple of the very people she tried to recruit into her association now crossed the street to talk to Earl instead. Turns out, he said, people don't like being conscripted into somebody else's power trip. The gas station clerk taped up a new flyer where hers had been. Farm for sale. N.O. HOA, call Tom. Underneath, someone had scrawled, real owner, real papers. I didn't put it there. People notice who stands their ground without screaming. On my last afternoon at the farm as owner, I locked the farmhouse door for the first time in my life. Not because I was scared someone would take it, but because I was finally done guarding it. Sitting on the tailgate, I thought about my dad in that hospital room, telling me, keep it straight. He knew the kind of people that show up when land starts to look like money. Warlords with rifles in some countries. HOA presidents with clipboards in others. Same instinct. Control the paper. Control the ground. They all make the same mistakes sooner or later. They underestimate the quiet old guy who actually reads the rules. I didn't come back to fight anyone. I came back to sweep out a barn, settle an estate, and say goodbye to a piece of dirt that raised 3 generations of Grangers. But I also didn't come back to be pushed off my own land by a woman with a printer and a Facebook group. So when Melissa tried to call the HOA, what she really did was call down the one thing she never planned on dealing with: real procedure, in the hands of someone who knew how to use it. The new owner sent me a photo a few weeks after closing. Kids in muddy boots, leaning against that same fence, a new private drive. N.O. HOA sign hanging where my dad's old board used to be. Made me laugh out loud in my kitchen. Out on that road near Knoxville, the war with the fake HOA was over. The county records had my name where it needed to be, and there's exactly nowhere. The land moved on to people who respected it. The Hartwells still had their gray bricks and solar lights. They just didn't have a kingdom anymore. And if Melissa ever starts up again, she'll run smack into a lineman who's already got a copy of my folder and a deputy on speed dial. In that neighborhood, the war with the HOA was over. But for those who know the system from the inside, they know there's always another committee present somewhere who thinks they're above the law. Subscribe to the channel and watch the absurd story that occurred at another HOA. Click on the video that's currently appearing on your screen.